Welcome to Menopause, Marriage and Motherhood, a podcast about that time of life that tends to take us all by surprise. I'm your host, Karen O'Connor. Let's get right into it. So today I'm here with Kerri Robertson. She's a certified wellness practitioner, health coach, fitness nutrition specialist, and the host of the Anti-Kale Health Coach podcast. She's also, I have to say this, got 6 children to look after as well as doing all this. So I'm just like all hail and bow down to Kerri, because anybody that can handle 6 children has got my utmost admiration, I've got to say. So I didn't know this, but I'm just reading off what you said in the information thing that I sent out. So you've actually got a degree in exercise science and you started as a fitness instructor, but you don't enjoy formal exercise. So if you don't enjoy formal exercise, what do you do? Welcome.
That's really funny because, thank you. Hi, Karen. Nice to see you again. It's really funny that you brought that up because just a few hours ago, I recorded my podcast for this week about my journey through like physical wellness and exercise and how much I don't hate or how much I don't like it. And that I actually really love dance. And I've just always naturally been a dancer my entire life. Never formally trained or took classes or anything, but that's my exercise.
Isn't that interesting? So what actually got you interested in that to start with? And because you've had a really varied career as well. So I've got to give everybody that's listening a little bit of background. This is the 3rd time Kerri and I have spoken. So we kind of continuing conversations, and I'm just trying to be aware of, what haven't we spoken about before? But so how did you end up? Because you've had so many differences in your career and what you're doing. Although it's been within the health and wellness and fitness kind of arenas, you've done a lot of things, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I've gotten a little taste of several things, so it's been fun.
So you started off as a fitness instructor. Mm-hmm. And then it's you say here, your past is full of obesity and generally unhealthy life choices. That were your own choices?
Oh, yes. Drugs, alcohol, smoking. Yeah.
Wow. So you studied health and fitness, exercise science, and then you went on to just do the complete polar opposite. Or was it the other way around?
The other way around. Yep.
Right,
I got the partying out of the way first, and then I was like, all right, time to clean up my act.
So what was that point? What made you go, okay, it's time to clean it all up now. All right, enough's enough.
There really wasn't like a pivotal moment where the lights all shined down and was like, Kerri, this is it. It was more little things that happened, almost being evicted because I couldn't pay my rent, or having my kids come home and saying, Mom, it's drug week at school and you smoke, so you do drugs. And it was I know. I see the face you're making. That was heartbreaking.
That would have been heartbreaking. Yeah.
It was just little things like that. And as I started to make the small changes, I think everything just kind of came together. And the degree wasn't my first choice. I kind of settled for it, but I'm glad I did.
So where has it led you? So what were you doing before that? What did you like? So what age were you when you started that? Because I get that, because we were talking about this with regards to midlife when I was talking to you on your podcast, and there wasn't one pivotal moment. There was just like this series of things going, I'm really not happy. This isn't actually working, until you get to the point where you just go, right, I've just got to slowly start doing things. But it's not like a big, it's not.
Yeah. I would say I really started cleaning up my act right before I turned 30. And then I kind of took my 30s and got it together. I went back to school. I slowly started to, give up some of the less than stellar habits. And by the time I graduated college, I said, I'm going to be done and I'm going to walk the talk. And that was my goal. So I gave myself till I graduated, and I took every last minute and stretched it out, but I got it done.
So what's the difference? It's easy for people to say, you're going to feel better if you eat better and you don't drink and you don't smoke and everything. But you've actually experienced, I've always been fit and I've always been fairly healthy. And that's just the way I've been. I've been fortunate enough that I don't like sweet things. And I like salads. There's few people that actually really has enjoyed a salad their whole life. So I'm very fortunate, and I can't relate to being or doing that choice where you eat the sugary, high carb, high fat, processed foods, because it's just not what I like. So what got you into that? Why? I'm asking you to explain the psychology behind crap eating, I suppose, is what I'm doing here.
That's okay. I'm unique in that I very much enjoy salad and vegetables. I always have a big tray of raw veggies just for snacking. Always have, even when I was super big. But I also enjoy sweets and French fries and all the things that we're not supposed to eat. So it was finding the balance. I just wanted to throw that out there. But for me, I found for myself and then also for my clients that typically when we're not eating what we're supposed to be eating and we're not moving our body with intention and purpose, there is a reason for it. And for me, it was things like childhood abuse. It was poverty. It was running around with the wrong friends for certain. They definitely were not the best influences. Having kids at an early age and then trying to play house and figure out how to be an adult and still take care of an infant. It was a lot of reasons why, and not excuses because I don't like that word, but reasons why I would grab the most convenient thing. We ate McDonald's on the way home, or, oh God. I can't believe I ever ate that, but we ate McDonald's. We ate things out of a box. We did whatever was easy and was cheap. So for me, when I work with my clients, it's getting to the root of why are we not eating salads and why are we not moving our body? It's not so much let's get you to do it. It's let's figure out why you're not doing it and work on that first. And maybe that's not 100% the right way to do it, but that's what worked for me and I can relate to that. So that's where I go.
Oh, I don't know. I've spoken to a couple of other people around a similar topic, and interestingly enough, they do the same thing. It's working on why you're doing it, because you can do all the diets you want, but if you don't fix the root cause, you're going to go back to eating the way you do, not moving properly or whatever. So in terms of when you work with people, what are the kinds of reasons that they have for this? What is it that's uncovered? And just how painful is the process of doing that? Because a lot of people wouldn't do it. They don't want to look at the hideous skeletons in the cupboard because they think that it's going to be painful. And having done a lot of personal development, for me, yeah, it's painful, but that's also over fairly quickly. There's a pain and then it's gone. And it feels a lot better afterwards.
Yeah. You're going to have to rip off the Band-Aid. So you're absolutely right. I don't have tons of people that are jumping at the opportunity to deal with their skeletons. Most people are like, I want to lose weight. What's the quick fix? Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And that doesn't work. But the people who truly, sincerely do want to be happy and feel confident enough to walk into a grocery store and know what to buy. They want to walk into a gym and know what equipment to use and how to use it, or how to move their bodies at home even. Those are the people who are like, okay, yep, I'm here. Just let's do what we have to do. And there's a lot of tears, a lot of tears. There's a lot of, I'm not there to make friends. And so I make them angry at me often. I ask them why a lot, and people don't want to keep hearing that same question over and over again, but that's really how you get to the root of it. You just keep asking why until you're like, okay, bingo, that's it. So for instance, I have a client that I saw this morning, and we work a lot on her language because her thing is she always says she wants to feel better. Well, what does better mean? And why do you want to feel better? And so it's me asking why. What does that mean? Explain it more. And then she gets upset with me because that's the hard work, because then she has to actually look inside herself and say, what does this mean? What does better mean? What does my life look like when it's better? Yeah. I make them mad. I mean, really, that's the answer to that. I make my clients mad. But, once that light bulb goes off, then they're like, oh, okay. Now I can see why you're being such a wench.
So when you see, this is a really loaded question, right?
Okay. Hit me.
When you see somebody, there's all this whole movement about fat shaming. Don't fat shame me. But to me, I see somebody who's overweight and I immediately go, what's wrong? What's missing? Do you do the same thing, or is there more of an understanding having been there? Because I've got no experience of it, so I'm quite judgmental about the whole thing, I've got to say. It's not a very nice trait.
I think it's human to look at someone who's different than us and go, oh, what? It's just our human reaction. But I do kind of like, this is going to sound very woo-woo, but I'm very in tune with my intuition. And sometimes I can look at a person and just kind of get a very vivid picture of what their life is like. And when I see somebody who's very quite unhealthy, and it's pretty obvious, I can kind of take in the whole picture and say, oh, okay, well, she's got 3 kids in this rundown minivan that's falling apart in the parking lot. Her husband is not helping at all. He's over there smoking a cigarette, and she's not brushed her hair in 3 days. And I can kind of take all that in and say, okay, she doesn't have a good support system. They probably don't have a whole lot of money. She's got kids who are demanding her time and her energy, and who's taking care of her? And I keep saying her because I mostly work with women, but it's amazing that in 5 seconds I can take all that in and say, okay, what is the small thing that we could work on? And am I going to get her to stop going to McDonald's to feed her kids? Probably not. Not the first time. Over time, maybe, but maybe we can reduce the amount of soda she's drinking. Maybe we can cut it down to 1 or 2 a day.
The people that come to you, what is it that draws them to you, and what do they see they can get out of it? Because you really could just go down the gym, just make yourself just go to the veggie shop, join the gym and make yourself go 5 or 6 times a week, and you'd be fine. But we're not able to do that. Generally, I don't like going to the gym by myself. It drives me insane. But what would draw people to somebody like you? What makes them ask you for help?
I think it's my vulnerability and my willingness to tell my story. Right. Because then they can relate to it. They don't put me up on the pedestal of the Instagrammers who are out on the beach in their bikinis and saying, you can look like this in 3 weeks if you follow my program. Yeah. They're seeing me who's got a boatload of kids and a real life and real stories, and I can relate to what it feels like to be in their position. So I think honestly that's what attracts people to me. And I don't get a whole lot of the moms who want to lose like the last 7 pounds. That they're not my people. I get the projects, which is fun. So yeah.
A long-term projects, yeah.
Yes.
It's really interesting though, isn't it? Because obviously people see something in you that we quite often latch on to somebody that we know they can help us, even if we don't know how it's going to look. And we'll just kind of maybe wander about and meander in their shadow for a while. Do you get a lot of people following you? And then, because you're quite active on Facebook, are you? Have you got a lot of things going?
Yeah. I have a group, a private Facebook group. I have the podcast. I've got my personal page, my business page. I'm also a wedding officiant, so I've got that going on.
I got that bit. We need to talk about that too.
Yeah. So yeah, I am pretty active on Facebook, and the group I think is kind of where a lot of my clients come from, because the group I started for me. I didn't start it as a business venture or trying to do anything. I had gone through a really significant loss in my life, and I needed a place to bring me joy, somewhere safe that was away from all the negativity of this year. And I said, okay, I'm going to start this group, and it's actually called Live More Joy. And that's exactly what it's for. But as I started telling my story, I'll do lives in there, and I start crying because I'm talking about my friend who passed away, and they see I'm a real person. So we're making those connections and building relationships in that group. And I think Facebook is definitely where I'm finding most of my clients.
I'm glad to hear about your friend. I didn't know about
Thank
that.
you.
That's not nice. But I think you're right. It's something, I don't know whether you saw the post that I put up in my group yesterday, and it was something like, I spent the weekend getting rid of all the perfect people in my life. Morning, all you train wrecks. How are you? And it was like, that's it. And it's interesting that the same as you, I get people saying to me, you're exactly the same in person as you are on the internet. And that discrepancy I cannot abide. I've followed so many people in my journey because I thought they were one thing, and then when I've met them, they turned out to be something completely different. And to me, that's totally out of integrity. And being overweight is out of integrity, or not being fit is out of integrity. For me personally, it's not for everybody else, but that's one way that works for me of looking at it. If I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not in integrity. That's just what works for me. So, complete career change. You decided to become a marriage celebrant as well.
Yes, I've been doing that
joy into your life?
I'm sorry?
Was that just to bring a bit of joy into your life?
It actually started as a joke. So back before I even went back to school, I was working in a factory because that's what I did. I worked in factories and liquor stores and just whatever would pay the bills. And so I was working in this factory, and this woman that I worked with was getting married for the second time. And she was like, remember that Friends episode when Joey got ordained and did the wedding? And I said, yep. And she's like, you should do that for me. And I said, okay. And so I found a church online and I got ordained. And then I went, oh, can I actually do this? And I contacted the courthouse where we live, and they said, yes, you can. And it spiraled, and I've been doing it for 11 years. It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
So
every year I'm like,
you're actually ordained by a church.
Yes.
And you did it online.
I did. I did. Mm-hmm.
Sounds amazing. And you've been doing it for 11 years, you were saying.
Yes.
Sorry. There's a bit of a time lag here. I think that's the problem. Because we're so far apart from each other, there's like a 1 second time lag. So we keep kind of talking over each other. So, that's not a lot I can do about that. But so, 11 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And every time I'm like, okay, that's enough. I want my weekends back. Then someone will contact me, and I'm like, okay, just one more. It's almost like potato chips. But it's so much fun. I think I'm just going to do it until I can't do it anymore. So it's fun.
That's amazing. So how many have you done? And what's your most remembered one, your most memorable? Or what's the one that went most wrong as well? So the most memorable for good reasons, the most memorable for not so good reasons.
Okay. Most memorable would be my brother's wedding.
Oh.
I did not do a great job, but it was very special to me to be able to do that for him. He's my baby brother, so I'm the protective older sister, and I was like, my baby brother's getting married. I would have been crying through the whole thing. The most wrong. I've been very fortunate in 11 years that I think I've only had 3 that were like, oof, I probably don't want to put those out in public. But this one, the couple was very eclectic. I will use that word. And they wanted a hand fasting ceremony. They wanted a unity candle, a sand ceremony, a dove release. You name every ceremony, and they wanted it included with theirs. It rained. The doves wouldn't release. They forgot to bring the marriage license. I think the best man was wasted. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. It was just a horrible, horrible mess. Yeah, that one definitely sticks out.
Still married, do you know?
I have no clue. No clue. Usually, a lot of my couples I'm still friends with on Facebook, and I get to watch their families grow and get to watch them buy houses and all of that. These people, I've never heard from them again. So I have no idea.
So in your group, just changing tack again, in your Facebook group, that's a free group, isn't it, that anybody can join?
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And is that where most of your clients come from? Because you don't need to deal with people in person, do you? You work online with them as well, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think most of my clients do come from that group. And a lot of the group started with people that I know in my personal life, but it's grown a little bit. It's not a very big group, but we're a tight group, very supportive. I would say most of my clients come from there, for certain. There was a second part to that question.
There was, and I can't remember what it is. Why don't you like kale? What's wrong with kale? I like kale. Kale doesn't like my tummy doesn't like kale, but I personally like kale. Why don't you like kale?
It tastes like grass.
Well, yeah, it does, yeah, but I like horses, though.
Yeah, kale is the only vegetable I've ever met that I don't like. And so it's really just the anti-kale. I don't know. I've tried to cook it. I've tried to bake it. I've tried it. I just cannot get on board with kale.
Isn't that interesting? I actually like when you bake it in the oven and it goes crispy. You make the kale chips. I actually like that, but they do not agree with me at all. Not at all. Sad to say.
That's too bad.
I like the taste. But the anti-kale health coach, there's a whole kind of meaning that you attach to that, because it's not like you were saying before, the Instagram perfect body babes. Mm-hmm. That's not it at all, is it, what you do? It's kind of more messy than that and more real and down to earth.
Yeah, definitely. And it's meant to be cheeky, because I don't like kale, and I market myself as the rebel, or the scrappy rebel, actually, which is absolutely true. I still am. Rules were meant to be bent a little bit. But it is when you hear health coach, most people are like, oh, please don't talk to me, because she's going to make me eat vegetables and do burpees, and I don't want to do any of that. And when I am working with people, it's not that I'm interested in forcing people to do things that they don't want to do. If you don't want to exercise, don't exercise. But let's find something you do like to do that moves your body a little bit. And so it's really trying to dispel those myths about health coaches, because there's such an influx of, we'll say, health coaches through direct sale companies that, they sign a piece of paper and pay a fee, and then boom, they're a health coach. But with my background and my education and experience, a health coach should not be selling you shakes and doing those things. I have your health in mind. It's not just vegetables and exercise. Okay, that's it. I'm off my soapbox.
Soapbox there. Like, it's really interesting, because where I was going to go with it, that what was coming up for me as you were talking is, how do you, because most of the people who come to you, I'm assuming, have a sugar addiction. How do you get them off that? Because that is such a difficult thing to do.
Yeah. And that's something that I personally struggle with. And I kind of go on a roller coaster ride with sugar myself. And so I can understand the addiction there. And I truly believe in weaning. I don't think that cold turkey works for lots of people, just saying, okay, you're just done with sugar, clean out your kitchen, and that's it. Because if you want something bad enough, you'll get in your car and you'll go down to the store and you'll get it, and you're going to binge on it. So with my clients and myself, when when I notice that maybe I've been hitting the sugar a little harder than I should be, it's really kind of backing off of it and weaning my way off of it. So it's finding alternatives. So instead of grabbing a handful of chocolates, maybe grabbing a handful of berries, because then you're still getting that sugar fix, but it's just a healthier version. Tea is huge because I can get my fruity flavors through my tea. I don't have to eat candy or get ice cream or something. And I'm a huge fan of how can I still have the things that I want, but still reach my goals. So I'm a big fan of finding alternatives. I've recently gotten into playing around with keto baking and choosing very, very friendly sweeteners, not anything artificial, but things that don't raise your insulin and don't mess with your gut too much. So that's been kind of fun. As we're coming to the holidays, I can still have a treat here and there and not feel like I'm missing out on everything. But yeah, it's really just finding the alternatives.
Because that's something a lot of people don't know, is that the artificial sweeteners are probably worse for you than actual sugar. And I don't think most people are aware of that. They'll reach for the low-calorie Coke and they'll use the artificial sweeteners in their coffee. And I'm like, oh, my God, please don't.
Yes. Please do not put those things in your body. Oh, boy.
So what kind of sweeteners are you talking about?
So I've been using monk fruit. There's a sweetener out there called Boca Sweet, and it's made from the sugars in like dates and things like that. But they're 0 calorie and they don't affect your insulin release. So they're really friendly for low carb eaters. And learning how they bake differently and how they sometimes, like the chemistry behind them, has been interesting to me. So there's been a lot more failures than successes with that. But right now it's just a hobby, so we'll get there.
Trying.
Yeah, but I avoid things like sucralose because that's bad news bears. We don't want that. I'm allergic to aspartame, so I definitely don't use anything with aspartame. And I avoid things like, what's the one that puts you on the toilet? Malitol. That one's no good.
See, I remember watching a program. It was an American reality TV thing, and they went back to first settlers in the West, and they were given the food that they would have had then. And there was one woman who was she looked after herself very well, and she was having a meltdown because she had no makeup or lipstick or anything like that. But then after a few days, she started getting real withdrawal symptoms, and the narrator was saying that the average American eats 7 pounds of sugar that's hidden in their food every week. Something ridiculous like that. And I'm like, what? Why is everything so filled with sugar? Why has everything got sugar in it? And I think that's the other thing about, we do get food, packaged food, ready-made food, because we don't have the time, we're time poor, and they're really cheap as well. It's much cheaper. So that double whammy of the time and the money makes us move away from getting meat and vegetables and fruits and preparing it.
Yeah. And I think there's been a lot of changes in science in the last 20 years as well. We all grew up thinking that fat was bad and low fat everything. Well, when you take the fat out of something, you still have to make it taste good. So then they put sugar in it, and we all got addicted to sugar. And we didn't realize that's what was happening. And so a lot of my clients are older women, and it's not only trying to get them off the sugar, but trying to explain to them, you don't have to be afraid of fat. That trying to almost reverse what they've been taught their entire lives. And it makes things very difficult, but you're absolutely right. Sugar is in everything. And it's so hard to read labels and know exactly all the different names that sugar is listed as. I'm not sure what it's like in Australia, but here it's, man, if they can fool you into eating sugar, they're going to do it. There's, I think, 90 some different names of sugar, something like that. It's a ridiculous amount of names, and there's no way anybody could ever memorize all of those. It's tricky, tricky business, the sugar industry.
It is, isn't it? It's interesting, yeah, because it was like fat and salt. You shouldn't eat fat and salt. And eggs is the other one, low cholesterol. And then all this sugar stuff came in. And there's so many, but it goes back to that problem I was talking about. It's the poorer people, the lower socioeconomic people who are the worst hit by it. That was what I was going to say. I don't know whether you heard, but about a month ago in Ireland, a court actually deemed that the Subway rolls cannot be called bread because they got too much sugar in them.
That's beautiful. Yay!
I know, right? I know, because you see all the adverts about these people who are eating Subway for 3 months and look how many kilos they lost. I wouldn't touch a Subway roll. Like, it's just pure sugar. And that's what the Irish court said, which I was really like,
that's wonderful. Good for them.
Yeah.
It'll never happen in America.
You got completely different. It's really interesting, just going off topic slightly. I was reading somewhere about the Food and Drug Administration. The basic moral isn't the right word. The basic difference between the US and Europe and Australia is that over here we go, well, until it's proven innocent, we're going to assume it's guilty. Whereas in the States, it's innocent until proven guilty. And I think that ethos underpins everything through drugs, through food, but it whittles out from America to the rest of the world. We just all follow suit like little sheep.
Yeah. It's interesting that you brought up the food poor. I was just noticing again that in the city where I live, there's a very obvious food desert. And are you familiar with food deserts? Okay. So basically what that means is there's an area of our city where it's almost impossible to find healthy food. It's so far away from any grocery store that it's not really walkable. And in order to get there, you have to have transportation or be able to take public transportation. And if you don't have the funds to do that, you're stuck where you are, and where do you get your food from then? Well, in those neighborhoods, there's gas stations that sell what they call food, processed food, like macaroni and cheese and baked beans and chips and dip and candy and those kinds of things. And outside those gas stations, they have these giant signs that say, food stamps accepted here. Because then the poor people can take their food stamps, go to the gas station, and get this so-called food to feed their families because it's a block or two from their house. Whereas going to the grocery store would be an entire day's worth of traveling on the bus and trying to get groceries back. And if they can even afford to take the bus, it becomes this giant debacle just to go grocery shopping. And so we see a lot of that in the cities here, and it's a very, very real problem. Because if we can't get to those neighborhoods and work our way out with proper nutrition and access to foods, we're never going to solve this problem of obesity, and I'm going to have job security for the rest of my life. And I don't want that.
Why? I've never heard of food deserts before. How has it ended up being a thing? I can't even comprehend it.
Yeah. It's really sad for me to see the town that I grew up in. It's becoming more and more obvious that particular neighborhood, there's actually two of them. There's one on the north side and one of the south side of town. But those particular neighborhoods, it's becoming very, very obvious that the city is trying to squash them and almost run them out of the city, because at some point they're not going to have a choice. They're going to have to leave and go somewhere where they can have access to food and healthcare and things like that. I can't solve that on my own. That's a huge undertaking, but that is definitely something that I want to do in this next 30 years of my career. So eventually I'm going to shift focus and start working on that. somehow. I don't know how, but somehow.
So you say that they're trying to squeeze them out and get them out of town. What's the purpose behind that?
I think because if you look at statistics, and I'm not saying I agree with this, but if you look at statistics, typically the higher crime rates are in the poor areas. And if you can get rid of the poor areas, then you don't have crime rates, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I know. That's a whole nother podcast.
I know, right? I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh my Lord. That is,
Yeah, it's
I
very
mean, over
sad.
here, Australia's so big, unless you're in a city, you're a long way from anything. And so we lived in a country town in New South Wales, literally halfway between Sydney and Brisbane, about 600 kilometres, about 400 miles from the big cities. Now, the issue there is transport. You've got to get the food there. So the processed food is much cheaper, but there are still lots of places. All of the supermarkets still sell fresh fruit and vegetables. So you can get it. And there still are. I can't imagine walking in a supermarket and not having fresh fruit and vegetables there. That's the first section as you walk into the supermarket, is the fruit and veg and bread,
Right.
but, fruit and veg and the deli section. So it's almost encouraging people. And they have things like one of the supermarkets over here, they have tubs of fruit for school-age children so the kids can go and just get a piece of fruit as their parents are walking around the supermarket.
I love
We
that.
are not perfect by a long way. Not by a long way. But that's expected. You wouldn't, unless you went to a small mini mart in the middle of a city centre, that's what you'd expect over here. Yeah, I would say. Having said that, there's the main road between Sydney and Melbourne. When you get down into Victoria, where Melbourne is, they've got all these signs: don't drive tired, make sure you eat, make sure you keep your energy up. And then you stop at the service station on the freeway. It's not a freeway, but a big highway thing. And they've got all these different food places in there. And the only thing I could eat was a smoothie. That was it in the entire place. It was like chips and rolls and pies and McDonald's, and not a healthy place in there. And I'm like, don't put up signs saying don't drive tired when all you're selling is sugar.
Yeah. What a great marketing tool.
It is, actually. It is. So, yeah, that was my little rant because I was really cross about that when I was driving down.
Yeah. We have similar places around here too. They call them rest stops or oases or something like that. And it's just one giant fast food building.
We've started getting a couple of fast food places that are actually healthy fast food places. So they only sell fresh, it'll be vegetables, and instead of having fries, it'll be roasted broccoli or sweet potato, and it's actually really quite nice. So that's my stop when I'm traveling.
I love that.
So is there anything else you want to talk about, Kerri? So tell me, how can people connect with you on Facebook?
So they can find me on Facebook. It's just my name, or they can go to my business page, Live More with Kerri. They can find me on Instagram.
When I talk about Instagram.
Yeah, I'm making a face. Like, I'm not quite sure how to do the Instagram thing, but I'm on there. My website, livemorewithkerri.com. They can listen to my podcast, the Anti-Kale Health Coach podcast. You can always send a message through there. Yeah, those are probably the best ways.
And definitely join that group if you're interested.
Oh, yeah.
Because having met Kerri, and we've spoken quite a few times now, I'm like, yeah, you need to talk to Kerri.
Yeah. And I'm in there every day. I'm in there every day. I do journaling prompts every day, so participation is always optional, obviously, but it's just a question of the day to get you thinking. I do live videos in there. We do challenges, weekly and monthly challenges. Yeah, it's a fun group. Very supportive.
What are the challenges like?
Well, so at the beginning of the year, we did a sober month, so no alcohol. And in Wisconsin, that's a big deal.
It's in Australia too. Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty well known for drinking here. We've done things like improve your sleep. We've done things like changing your language and writing down every negative thought you have and reframing that. We've even done things like screen reduction challenges. And even though we're a Facebook group, it's okay, time to shut it down and reduce your screen time. We've done financial things, trying to get out of the diet and exercise frame of mind every once in a while. This month, at the beginning of the year, let me back up. At the beginning of the year, I don't do New Year's resolutions, and I always choose a word for myself. And this year I chose the word strong because after my friend passed away last year, I was a mess. And this was the year that I wanted to become stronger in many different ways. And so this month, I've challenged people to go back and remember what that word was. If they didn't remember it, quick pick a new one. And then each week I'm doing something where last week it was write a paragraph about what that word means to you. And then this week it's adding on to that paragraph and writing a few sentences of what that looks like. So if it's something that you're still working on, because we still have a few weeks left in the year, writing things like, I am strong financially because I paid off this bill by the end of the year. So even if you haven't done it yet, writing it as though you have will help motivate you to get that done in the next however many days we have left. Some challenges are much more lighthearted, but it's the end of the year, so it's time to wrap it up and get ready for next year.
But everything stems from what you're thinking about, doesn't it? Our whole attitude to life, the way we look, the way we feel, everything. So the money and the lifestyle and the health and fitness, it's actually all tied in because it all comes from our mindset. And once we start changing that, everything else comes through. So I think it's great that you're doing that. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. You should join us too, Karen.
I will.
Good. I'll send you an invite.
Yeah, please do. Yes.
I will.
So thank you so much, Kerri. I really appreciate it. It's been so cool
this was
having
fun.
you on.
Oh, this was fun. Time. Yes. We'll have to do it again and talk about food deserts and, the atrocity of...
My head is still reeling about that. I can't quite grasp that whole idea that there would be a food desert where all there is available to eat within a day's walk is rubbish.
If you have me on again and we talk about it, I'll have statistics and actual information for you.
We'll do that in March. So this podcast will be going out 22nd of December. So it's perfect that if you listen to this after the 22nd of December, this is helping you get into the new year and really start taking stock, because it's a perfect completion to the year and a start to the new year. Okay, have you been getting all those little signs that are going, this isn't how I want to live, it's not who I want to be, it's not how I want to look, all those little signs adding up. So this is one of the things that I'm offering to people to try and help nudge them to taking the next step. So
yeah,
I can't clap, sorry. And just won't do it. Thank you so much, Kerri. I really appreciate it. And have a wonderful Christmas.
Thank you. And you too, Karen.
And I'll talk to you again in the new year. Thank you.
Wonderful. I can't wait. Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on Menopause, Marriage and Motherhood. Make sure you visit our website, middleagedwomenstuff.com, where you can subscribe to the show in any of the players or via RSS so you'll never miss a thing. If you liked this show, you might want to check out the webpage, which gives you lots more information about both our host and our guest, along with heaps of other resources. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Friday for the next episode. And that's all for this episode. We can't wait to see you next time.